There is so much information out there about how the body moves. And understanding how muscle function works is your top priority in development. However, muscles don't create movement and they don't create development. Okay, you're going to say like, what, Michelle? But let me explain how this is meant to happen. Okay, I get it. I can use my muscles to create movement, but muscles respond to movement. It's actually the skeletal system that does it. So in my Oxford presentation, papers are there, presentations out there. I'll link it all together as a group. But within your muscles themselves, the sarcomeres, the myosin acins, and this was a misrepresentation. In 1954, it was discovered that it was sliding filaments. Well, I'm sorry, mathematically, you can't take 1,000 slides and make a rotation, right? Mathematically, the more circles you have within circles, the more complex movements you can make, and you can mimic any movement within that mathematical compilation, right? The earth spins, the solar system spins, we spin, we all deal with rotation. So it actually, what I presented what is needed in muscles is synchronized rotational within the filaments during the muscle contraction creates the energy source. So when the ATP collects right within the myosin actin, and you can see they're all twisted fibers, and again, you can't have a bunch of twists and get a slide. And that's what it is. So instead of the sliding filaments of the sarcomeres here, you have to look at more of the button toy, what is a muscle. And of course it tangles right before I do the demo. So going back to a good old-fashioned button toy, and I did this at Oxford. I had everybody in the audience doing this. This is a muscle contraction. So as I go to reach, right, I'm exciting that kind of rotation, that synchronized rotation, and as I release, that pulls back, and that creates the energy. So as I'm reaching here, I have muscles here that are releasing. As I'm opening, whatever is your vocabulary, it doesn't matter. But this is how a muscle does this. To do that, they need the skeletal system. Now, when I have CP, I'm here. There's no synchronized rotational movements. And when I have genetics, low tone, muscular dystrophy, this is where I'm at. So to get the spin to happen, when you don't have passive and active muscles, this happens during contractions and active labors. The mother has active muscles to contract, has passive muscles for the baby to get into position. This is the first transfer of muscle movement into the baby, right? So when you're looking at the skeletal system, and I'm going to look at it as my ice cubes. Now, this is not a true representation because this is not biologically possible. This is a mass. People are going to say, well, I'm a mass. This is a mass. No, I'm a biological response to gravity. I use gravity. I oppose it using rotational movements, okay? This is an ice cube, so there is a horizon. I don't have a horizon. The whole point of being born is that you have fluid dynamics that respond to 360 degrees. Not the floor, not the ceiling, not that your baby doesn't know what's up, right? So as your baby starts to move, right, this skeletal system needs to create articulation, meaning individual movements, and it needs to respond to gravity, creating an absolute horizon within the body. Right, not out in the atmosphere, whatever. It's within the body. So where I know where I'm at, and it starts creating that buoyancy. Very similar to this. I only have my 2 vertebrae, but a vertebrae is not working as a stick. You know, your spinal column. It has these little nuances that go in. So when I'm even doing this against the wall, putting my hand there, supporting my weights. Every vertebrae is responding to where I am in space. Every nasal bone, every cranial bone, my arms, everything is responding to where I am in space. And then the muscles, I always say this, similar to like a big float at the Macy's Day Parade, are there to respond to all of that. But if you have a situation where your muscles are tight, spastic, whatever, what's happening is your body is not working off the skeletal system correctly, and it's going to use a muscle-based skeletal system, right? You see this too, people that really overwork the muscles incorrectly, especially when their ab muscles become the dominant from the spinal column, right? The spine needs to have, and again, the spine has passive muscles. There's muscles within the spine and throughout the body that you cannot physically or mentally contract. However, when a child has cerebral palsy, everything's contracted. So in a sense, this ice cube's here without any water, right? That spasticity is CP, right? There's no fluid dynamics to go off of. A baby has more bones, 306 bones versus almost 100 more bones, and also the 85% fluid dynamics when they're full term. Premature babies now start to have this problem because they don't have the right, in a sense, BMI index. They have more skin and skeletal system than they do the mass or the fluid dynamics. And again, this is where you get these kind of responses. The muscles can't, in a sense, open up when you don't get the first breath. So when you're looking at genetics or low tone, in a sense too, it's not going off the buoyancy of the skeletal system, right? And so the muscles are just sort of floppy because they don't have that tonus, they don't have that response. So when you're looking to have better muscle structure, first of all, can it initiate active and passive muscles? Know this. Right now, if any organ in my body starts, I better have someone here, which I don't, to restart it, right? I cannot restart my own heart. I can't. That's the same with muscles. Every organ is a muscle, and that's what people are missing with CPR, right? They're going after that muscle, that active passive, so the heart can go, and it's helical. Heart is also rotational, right? Look at Starkey's work. You can unroll that heart like a rose, right? It's not in quadrants. And you're looking at all of that, and that's what creates the movement, right? Or that restores the movement. So in a sense, when your child gets traumatized, in a sense, sometimes your movement lessons, again with rotation, because rotation responds with rotation, you're so minute. It's like you're giving the muscles CPR, right? So when I see kids or children or even adults, when they're restricting the movements, thinking they're going to create a movement, or so the muscles don't have to work so hard, or to make the muscles stronger so it creates movement. If you don't have a functioning skeletal system within this structure, right, that responds to all of this, when I can do all of these movements, yes, I get it, my muscles are doing, but my muscles aren't sitting there contracting and releasing to do all this. I know how to float my bones and do all of that, and you see that when you watch people dance. That's what the human body works off of, because it's the easiest way to perform a task. The more muscles you have, you're already saying to your body, it is so hard to perform that task, which might be weightlifting. As an example, I need muscles to perform that task. But for the tasks of development, you need an articulated skeletal system. This happens most effectively from a full-term vaginal delivery. If those things don't happen, that's why you're here, to look at your deviation scales. Where do I need to work on? But to apply an external skeletal system, in a sense, to make the internal skeletal system work better, you're missing the mark, and your child is not going to hit their developmental needs, because you're looking for one thing, like a muscle, to create all of that. That's like saying, for my car to work, I only need gas. Well, a fan belt kind of helps too. And so the whole system is connected. But if you don't understand how a muscle works, in an infant, you're not going to get development. You cannot take adult-based concepts. Again, I can do this all day long. It's not a functional movement. I can't feed my face. I can't get dressed. I need rotational movements in opposition to gravity. That puts on my earrings, that feeds my face, that fixes my hair. Any task that I need to do has to have weight transfer, transitional movements, and rotational responses in opposition to gravity. If I can't oppose gravity, right, now I have developmental problems. This is where you go after to help your child thrive, move, and have optimal development. If you deviate off that scale, you're going to deviate off of development. You'll get very rote, stoic, positioned response. Patterning is another good one. I can pattern my arm all day long. I'm not playing for the Diamondbacks, right? Again, there's so many misconceptions of where the body is with movement, but you can't take adult-based concepts and throw it onto a brand new baby. They don't wake up saying, oh, if I could just lift this finger. They are responding to gravity, they're responding to movement, and all that movement is so needed. This is why we don't swaddle, this is why we don't do those things. because it's so needed to create that. And once I had that, that's what organizes the brain. But I've said it from day one, if you don't have a good full breath in the beginning of your life, I can guarantee you, without some form of intervention, you're not going to get vertical milestones to the way that you're looking for as a time-dictated development. You will have baby-dictated development. Why? Because if you can't oppose gravity and breath, which is the easiest thing in the world to do, we never worry about our breathing. And if we do, again, you're my client. So if you can't oppose gravity and breath, you're not going to impose it in walking without some form of help. So again, children that have to be resuscitated, all those kind of things, again, need that kind of muscular CPR in a sense, that initiating of movement. Because first of all, you have to be able to initiate a movement, and then you can stimulate a movement, and then you can enhance it. But you can't enhance something that can't even initiate. And so not having good forms of evaluation, especially when it comes into vision, your fine, your gross motor skills, how that person organizes in space using weight transfer, transitional movement, and rotation. If you take any of those three things out of it, again, you're my client. I help everybody move better. I'll get you to Mount Everest. I'll take you to the Olympics. You're going to win gold if you're with me. Most people think that I'm just here for chronic or the special needs. That's my specialty. Right? Because I can see movement and I can see the potential. That's the one thing my son taught me, is I can see potential. And everybody has it. So do you. Thanks.